Here we go. What an interesting story we have for you today. Very interesting, and I don't know if I agree with it or disagree with it. Let's put it that way. But let's get to it. With history made mother convicted of manslaughter over son's crime. In case you don't know what this is the Michigan school shooter mother found guilty of involuntary manslaughter. Jennifer Crumbly, a Michigan mother, has been found guilty of involuntary manslaughter for failing to stop her son from carrying out a deadly school shooting. She's the first parent in the U.S. to be convicted of manslaughter over a mass shooting by their child. Prosecutors accused Crumbly of negligence for allowing her son access to a gun and ignoring warning signs. Her husband's also facing trial of similar charges. Their son, Ethan Crumbly, is serving life in prison for killing 4 classmates at Oxford High School in Michigan. 7 others were injured in the shooting. I mean, this is a very tragic thing. I don't know how deep the story I'm going to read goes into it, but this kid was definitely troubled and he was asking for help and was ignored. So it is very troubling. Let's see here. Mother of gun who killed 4 pupils convicted of manslaughter. This is from the nationalnews.com. They're centered, mixed factually. I don't think they got anything wrong here. It's I mean, I do read the Fox News sometimes. Here to Jennifer Crumley, the mother of a teenage gunman who killed 4 pupils at a Michigan school in 2021, was convicted of involuntary manslaughter on Tuesday, the first time that a parent has been convicted in the connection of a mass shooting carried out by their child. Crumley's husband is currently waiting trial. You might want to plead. Let's see here. During the trial, prosecutors argued that Crumbly was required under Michigan law to prevent her son, Ethan, from harming others. I think there's a law in every state. I mean, the role of the parent has a heavy burden and responsibility to make sure that their kids don't become little monsters. It's here on November 30th, 2021. The monster, then 15, shot 10 pupils and a teacher at Oxford High School. His victims' age ranged from 14 to 17. What about the teacher? How old's the teacher? The morning of the shooting, the monster's parents were called to the school after staff members expressed concerns about violent drawings with disturbing phrases he has created. Crumbly did not remove their son from the school. The gun used in the shooting has been purchased by the father 4 days beforehand, and the mother had taken him to the shooting range that weekend. Prosecutors have also argued during the trial that Jennifer and James Crumbly knew that the monster was in a downward spiral, but still allowing him to have access to weapons. I mean, maybe he spoke interest of owning a firearm, and they're hoping that this will help him, because firing guns is a good therapy, to be honest, from personal experience. Let's see, the monster is serving a life prison sentence after pleading guilty to murder and terrorism charges. See here, I mean, that's really all that is to this one. Let's see, is there... I mean, this one's Canadian. Let's see here. The guilty verdict for each of the students slain at Oxford was returned after roughly 11 hours deliberation. Jennifer Crumbly, 45, looked down and shook her head slightly as each juror pulled out the verdict. Oakland County Judge Cheryl Matthews thanked the jurors, says, "We all know that this was one of the hardest things you ever done." On her way out of the courtroom, prosecutor Karen McDonald hugged Greg Schilling, the father of the victim, Justin Schilling, and the family of Madison Baldwin. Thank you, a man whispered to her. The gag ordered by the judge prevented McDonald defense attorney Sharon Smith from speaking to reporters on the morning, blah, 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 blah. A few hours later, pulled a handgun from his backpack. Let's see, the gun was a Sig Sauer 9mm his father, James Kerman, purchased for him just 4 days earlier. James Kerman had taken her son to the shooting range at the same weekend. You were the last adult to have possession of that gun, the assistant prosecutor Mark Keek said while cross-examining Jennifer Crumbley last week. You saw your son shoot the last practice round before the school shooting November 30th. You saw how he stood. He knew how to use the gun. The teen mom replied, yes, he did. Besides the 17-year-old Justin Schilling, a 17-year-old Madison Baldwin, Hannah St. Julian, 14, and Tate Meyer, 16, were also killed. 7 people were wounded. The monster is now 17, pleaded guilty to murder, blah, blah, blah. So your Jennifer and James Crumbley are the first parents in the U.S. to be charged in mass shooting committed by their child. James Crumbley, 47, faces trials in March. Here, Jennifer Crumbley told juries that her husband's job to keep track of the gun. She also said that she saw no signs of mental distress. We would talk. We did a lot of things together. She testified, I trust him. I felt I had an open door. He could come to me about anything. In a journal found by the police, the monster wrote that his parents wouldn't listen to his plea for help. I have zero help for my mental problems, and it's causing me to shoot up the school. I mean, that was in his journal, so. Jury of 6 men and 6 women, including people who own guns, who grew up with them in their own home, said that they could put their opinions about guns aside and serve fairly. Jennifer Crumbley, who would get a credit roughly 2.5 years in county jail when she returns to the court sentencing in April 18th. The judge will set the minimum prison sentence based on a scoring guidelines of other factors. It will be up to Michigan Parole Board to determine how long she actually stays in prison. The maximum term for each involuntary manslaughter is 15 years. And that's it. I don't really agree with this ruling. I don't really disagree with this ruling. I think it's past time for parents to actually be held accountable for their rugrats, their children, because it is their job to raise them properly, to raise them with morals, raise them with principles. And I don't think these parents did that. I think these parents ignored this child and caused great harm to Oxford High School. I think they also did harm to their kid. I mean, the harm that they showed their child caused harm to other people. I mean, yeah, I do know that charging with manslaughter may be a dangerous precedent moving forward, but maybe this is what is needed. How many times have you went to Twitter or Facebook or YouTube and saw school fights being filmed by other children? Hell, it's gotten so bad that in Houston, the principal is either debating or have actually decided to confiscate phones as students enter the school. They will have to turn their phone in. They won't get it back until after school is over. I don't know if he's debating that or not, or if he's doing that. I heard the story on the radio on the way home. But I do know that is a story happening out in Houston. I mean, it really comes down to parents. If parents were actually being parents, we wouldn't probably have this many school shootings. We probably wouldn't have all the fights because the kids will fear their parents. up to a certain point. So this is why I'm not against it per se, but I'm also against it because ultimately responsible is the monster was 15 at the time. That's old enough to know from right from wrong. I mean, should it be the parents' responsibility because the school failed to search him? I mean, shouldn't the school get some of the blame? They failed to search for his book bag and could prevent it. I mean, there's definitely things, but ultimately, I agree that parents are ultimately responsible for their children's actions. And of course, I wasn't a saint growing up. I wasn't also a demon either. I was somewhere in between. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about this. Leave a comment down below how you feel about this. But most importantly, have yourself a wonderful day, morning, or evening.